Hello, everybody. This is Sophia Mona Lisa from the Golden Ray Center and the Roseville Mystery School. And I'm super excited about today's video journal. If you saw the first video that I put out this month of June 2023, which is the creative energies for June, you will know that today, June 11th, there is big stuff going on in the sky. So I am calling this journal for the claim of the self-eminence, and I'm going to explain to you why I'm choosing that phrase, self-eminence. So let's get into it. Okay, today, June 11th, Pluto is making its ingress back into Capricorn, 29 degrees of Capricorn. And so in order to do that, of course, Pluto is in retrograde motion and has been in retrograde motion for a little while. But the main point that I want to express here is that when a planet like Pluto is in retrograde motion, we call this the luminary body's vision quest, because what's happening is it's traveling back over these degrees of an astrological sign, back over this space in the sky where it's already moved through. It's going back over it. And the reason it's going back over that space is for you to have an opportunity to be able to discover anything that is significant for your soul's evolution that you missed the first time around. And normally we miss things because we're not exactly at the vibrational set point that's required to be able to see it or to receive it or to have clarity around it. And so this is the universe's way of kind of giving us like a do-over. But this time, it's kind of like, every time you watch a movie, you see something new, right? Something new that's subtle, but certainly integral to the whole plot of the movie. And so, this is what's happening now as Pluto goes back over these last degrees of Capricorn in this vision quest. It's to serve you in your soul's expansion, to get those pieces that you need to be fully empowered, to fully master what it is that you're being focused on at this time. So, let's talk about why I chose the word self-eminence this time around. Normally, when I talk about Pluto and Capricorn, I talk about empowerment through sovereignty. Empowerment as a keyword for Pluto, sovereignty as a keyword for Capricorn. But you can see here from my logo for my Golden Ray Center that I've been talking about sovereignty. I've been talking about sovereignty for years, and I mean years, long before sovereignty became a spiritual buzzword. And so this is one of the reasons why I thought, okay, you know what? The impact of really understanding what it is to stand in your sovereignty has been watered down because of the fact that it's become a spiritual buzzword. You're seeing it everywhere now. Also, on the other side of it is I'm aware that the word sovereignty still has a lot of patriarchal connotations to it, and it just doesn't feel resonant with what Pluto over these last degrees of Capricorn is calling us into. So I sensed on a very deep level, we've got to find another word, another way to translate what's happening for us individually and as a humanity, through this journey that we're stepping into today, June 11th. Now, some people, instead of talking about sovereignty, and I've done this myself, talk about stepping into your greatness. That's another way of talking about sovereignty, stepping into our greatness, right? That greater part of us that is that eternal, infinite, multi-dimensional self, and really being able to own more of who we are at that level. But again, this idea of stepping into your greatness has become a spiritual buzzword, or a spiritual phrase, buzz phrase. And for some people, I think that maybe it's a little too woo-woo for them, again, to align with, to resonate with. So once again, I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be a better word. There's got to be a better word for what I'm feeling is happening at this time with Pluto retrograding back over these last degrees of Capricorn. So that's when I landed on the word self-eminence. And let me take a moment to explain where I'm coming from in terms of feeling into this phrase, self-eminence. So first of all, we see that eminence begins with an E. And as a prefix, we know that EM derives from the prefix EX, and that it's often abbreviated as just the E, as we see here. And as a prefix, what this means is out of, right? From within. So already this is like a huge key that something, especially with Pluto being retrograde. Remember, with retrograde planets, retrograde luminary bodies, the focus of our attention is being shifted from out there in our external landscape to in here in our internal landscape. Something is happening from within. And so now we look at the rest of the word, Minence. Minence is a word that you're probably not familiar with, but it comes from the Latin word minere. Minere is a verb, which means to stand out. And then there are other variations of that verb, eminere, right? Which you could even say that eminence comes from. Eminere, to be prominent or prominence. And then we've got this Latin word, praeeminere. Praeeminere means to transcend, to rise above. And of course, it's praeeminere that we get the word preeminence, which is surpassing eminence. It's a distinction. And then, oddly enough, if you look at the word menere, there is a Welsh word for menere, which is minid. And I don't speak Welsh, so I might be pronouncing this wrong, minid. But this word translates to mountain. This is huge because Capricorn, as the highest frequency of the earth element signs, is all about the mountain that you are choosing to climb. Now, in patriarchy, That might be the mountain you're choosing to conquer. But this, we're stepping out of patriarchy. We are stepping fully into sacred masculine energy. And so this is the mountain that we're climbing, the mountain that we are grounding ourselves on at the top of this mountain to give us this higher vision where we can transcend and rise above all that is below us from the top of the mountain. And of course, these are just analogies for everything that I talk about, which has to do with alchemy. Pluto is all about alchemy, alchemizing frequencies from lower frequencies into the highest possible frequency that in that moment you have the capacity to calibrate to integrate within you and to embody. So I hope that you can understand why, for me, this word self-eminence really speaks to this vision quest journey that we are stepping into today as Pluto goes back into that mastery point of Capricorn. Remember, 29 degrees of any astrological sign is a mastery point. And Capricorn as a sign is the sign of mastery. And so this really feels like it fully contains, this word self-eminence feels like it more fully contains, more closely aligns to what I'm tapping into with this shift that we're making today. Remember, anytime Pluto shifts signs, it is a huge shift in our paradigm. So be aware of that. Now, what we see here, speaking of mountains, this is Mount Kailash. Mount Kailash is in the Himalayas, and it's known as the abode of Shiva. And so, I talk a lot about Christ and Sophia, and I've said from time to time that Christ and Sophia as beloveds equate to the Eastern terminology of Shiva and Shakti. So, this is the mountain that we are being given access to master within us. And so, today is June 11th, and Pluto making this ingress into Capricorn will stay in Capricorn until January 20th, 2024 next year. That's about 7 and maybe a quarter months for this whole vision quest journey to take place. And in this vision quest journey, what'll happen is on October 11th, Pluto will have retrograded all the way back to 27 degrees Capricorn, 54 minutes. And then on October 11th, it stations direct at this point, and it starts to move back over the 28 and 29 degrees. And so look at this. Remember what I've said about these degrees. A degree has 60 minutes, and they're counted from 0 to 59. So it's just moving, Pluto is just moving 5 minutes past the 28 degree mark. So really, this whole vision quest that we're going to be experiencing for these 7 and a quarter months is all about the 28th and 29 degrees of Capricorn, and keeping in mind that 29th degree and all of its 60 minutes has to do with mastery. And even more so because of Capricorn, the Capricorn energies that have to do with self-mastery. So what we see here is that we are embarking on what I'm calling this master's degree program that we have to complete as a part of our soul's evolution. This is what Pluto does for us. Pluto is all about our soul expansion and what we require for that expansion to unfold. And anything that doesn't serve that soul expansion, Pluto will invite you to let go of. And if you don't let go of it, it will burn it to the ground. So we are really in this master's degree program in terms of our own self-eminence. And so, you know, what self-eminence feels like and looks like for me will be completely unique for what it feels like and looks like for you. And this is what we're discovering. This is the discovery process that this vision quest is giving us the opportunity to really dive deeply into, right? Pluto is deep, 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 really grounding us deeply into that mountain, Mount Kailash. We become the mountain, so to speak. Now, the other thing about Pluto, remember, it moves very slowly. And in an earth sign like Capricorn, the earth element is all about pacing yourself. And with pacing yourself, what we discover as we have our vibrational set point become higher and higher is that we recognize that we require more and more space in which to feel comfortable and in which to be our best self in terms of what it is that we're desiring to create and how it is that we're desiring to be present in this third density reality. And so with pacing, the rule is, and of course, Capricorn is all about rules. The rule is the slower you go, the more space you create for yourself. And you've probably heard the axiom, the slower you go, the faster you get there. This is really what's happening over these next 7.25 months as Pluto moves back and forth over these last 2 degrees of Capricorn. Now, what I want to bring into your awareness, because I said that on October 11th, Pluto's going to reach that 27 degrees and what was it? 55 minutes, 54 minutes, 54 minutes. That point is very close to the Pluto return point for the United States of America. And if you were with me last year, listening to all I shared, I talked a lot about the Pluto return for the United States of America. And all of those videos are on my YouTube channel for the Roseville Mystery School under the Cosmic Events playlist. And so last year, 2022, we had 3 activations of that Pluto return point where it was exact. Those activations were exact. Well, what's happening now within this 7 months, October 11th, is Pluto is coming within 21 minutes of that Pluto return point for the United States. This is less than a half a degree. 21 minutes is less than a half a degree, right? Because we know 30 minutes is a half a degree. So we are coming very, very close to that Pluto return point. It's not an exact activation, but it's close enough that you will feel that that return point is being reactivated. So what I'm suggesting is that come October 11th and, you know, around that time frame, that you're going to want to be aware of what's happening in the external landscape, especially in the United States of America, that is going to be manifesting around this near activation, right? It's not exact, but close enough to be a reactivation of that Pluto return point for our country, the United States. So this is the other thing that I want to bring into your awareness around this close reactivation of the Pluto return point on October 11th. And this has to do with the eclipse schedule, right? Because remember, eclipses are all about getting humanity back on our evolutionary path. Pluto, of course, serves our soul's expansion, which is a part of our evolution. So this is happening on October 11th. October 14th, 3 days later, we are having the second eclipse on that Aries Libra axis, that path of conscious equal partnership. Then on October 28th, we're having the seventh and final eclipse on the Taurus Scorpio axis. And remember, Pluto rules Scorpio, that path of intensity. That's the final eclipse on October 28th. So I assure you, something big in terms of the evolution of this nation, the United States, is going to manifest within the month of October, or, you know, between October and I would say even January, when Pluto goes back into Aquarius. Remember, with Pluto, we're dealing with slow moving energies. So it may take into January, it may take up to 6 months, right? Because eclipses have a 6-month window. But remember that final activation on the Taurus Scorpio axis that's happening on October 28th, it ties back to the eclipse that we had on that axis at the midterm elections. Okay. And I did a whole video on that you can see on my YouTube channel under the world events playlist. So all of this is like, again, it's important to keep the big picture to see how all of this is tying in. All right. Because we know that we are doing this master's degree on our own self-eminence over this next 7.25 months, you're going to want to check your solar return chart to see in which solar house 29 degrees of Capricorn is located. And I guess I probably should have put 28 and 29 degrees of Capricorn is located. So this is where you're having your vision quest. And it's important to understand which house in your solar return chart this is happening for 2 reasons. One, your solar return chart is your evolutionary path for this year until your next birthday. So that's very relevant to what's happening right now. Two, the house in which you're going to find 28 and 29 degrees of Capricorn located is going to tell you the theme of your master's degree for self-eminence. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in more detail in some slides coming up. But this is where you need to look to really be able to fully and consciously engage this vision quest. Okay. Now, I think there was something else I wanted to say about that. Maybe it'll come to me. Okay. So what I'm showing you here is a part of my personal natal and solar return chart. And if you're a patron, which, by the way, let me just thank you again for being a patron, you very likely have had a reading done with me, especially a soul mission reading. And as a result of that, you have your solar return chart. And yes, I just remembered what I was desiring to say, and I'll put it in here. And so remember that this inner circle is your natal chart, and it's this outer circle that you're looking to, which is your solar return chart. And you'll see up here 29 degrees, 28 degrees of Capricorn for me is in my solar first house. So you see how the houses are numbered. This is the solar 12th house, the solar 11th house. Can't see those, but this is the solar 8th house, the solar 7th house. So you want to know, which house is this happening in? For me, it's happening in my first solar house. Again, I'm going to speak to that. And look here, 2754 is where my solar Pluto is. And if I recall, let me just go back to the previous slides because I want to double check. I'm just seeing this now. Yes, that is the point that Pluto's going to move to and station direct. So this is going to be a huge activation for me on that day. And you can't see it here, but my solar Magdalene, my inner Sophia consciousness, you can see here, very closely conjunct that too. So all of this is going to be really huge for me, and you'll understand why in just a minute. But it's also going to be huge for you. And of course, that depends on which house is it in. So you'll know, which playground you're playing on, and also any other luminary bodies. Now, very likely, your solar Pluto is going to get a huge reactivation, a huge re-empowerment like mine is. So this is what I wanted to share on the previous slide. If you're casting your solar return chart, you need to be careful that you're looking at the correct chart. So if, like me, you were born in January, or your birthday has been in January or anytime up to today, June 11th, because if your birthday's today, June 11th, happy birthday, by the way, you are stepping onto a whole new evolutionary path today. So if your birthday is from January 1st through today, June 11th, you are currently walking on your 2023-2024 ascension path. Okay. If your birthday is tomorrow, June 12th through the end of the year, December 31st, you are still walking on your 2022-2023 ascension path. So if you don't have a chart that I've provided for you, that should be the correct chart. And if you're casting the chart for yourself, and I do that at astro.com, you can do it for free. keep those guidelines in mind so that when you're looking at your solar return chart, you're looking at the correct information. You're not looking at the information for last year or the information for next year. You want to make sure that you're on that right evolutionary path for yourself. And those birth dates are the guideline to help you know which one you should be on. Okay. So here we go. This is the meat, right? This is the main course. This is what you want to be aware of. If that 28 and 29 degrees of Capricorn is in your first solar house, then what's happening for you through your master's degree of self-eminence is this question. How is the way that I know myself as a wisdom keeper and a way shower being transformed? That's the question you want to contemplate. Now, I'm giving you a contemplative question for each of these houses, depending on which solar house those 28 and 29 degrees of Capricorn are located in. But remember this, we are infinite, eternal beings. And so this is just one possible contemplative question. You may be guided as you contemplate these questions to shift them in some way that's more relevant to what it is that you are, to how you are being evolved through this master's degree program. But at least it's a jumping off place for you. Now, what you'll notice is that some of these words are capitalized. And that is a clue to you that the capitalized words have to do with keywords that are related to which house those 28 and 29 degrees are, right? First house, how I know myself, who I know myself to be, okay? And then keywords for Capricorn. In this instance, it's wisdom keeper and way shower. And then keywords for Pluto. And again, in this instance, it's transformed. So in each of these contemplative questions, the keywords related to the house, to the Capricorn energies, and the Pluto energies are in all within that contemplative question, and they're capitalized for you to be aware of. Okay. So if your 28 and 29 degrees of Capricorn is in your second solar return house, you're going to be contemplating, how are my inner resources for achieving mastery being renewed? In the third house, it's, how is the way that I communicate my wisdom being evolved? In the fourth house, you may be contemplating, how is the way that I provide safe and secure boundaries being empowered? In the fifth house, you're looking at, how is the way that I create structures being regenerated? In the sixth house, how is the way I show up with each breath and every moment being rebirthed? In the seventh house, how am I letting go of control and manipulation in my relationships? In the eighth house, how consistent am I in choosing to stand in my power? In the ninth house, how open am I to exploring my hidden gifts as they reveal themselves to me? In the 10th house, how is my soul work maturing and unfolding? In the 11th house, how is my fearlessness revolutionizing my consciousness? And in the 12th house, how is my ability to clear away obstacles being alchemized? So I hope that these contemplative questions are meaningful for you, depending on where your, which solar house you're engaging for this master's degree program. And as I said, be open to allowing those contemplative questions to be fluid and to shift. You might receive a whole new download about what it is in your playground you need to be looking at for yourself. Now, if you did watch the June Creative Energies video, you will be aware that on this day, June 11th, not only is Pluto making its ingress back to Capricorn, but we've got Venus squaring Jupiter. Venus at 5 degrees Leo, squaring Jupiter at 5 degrees Taurus. This is important for you to be aware of, because when I brought this back into my awareness, I realized, excuse me, that of course then Mars had its own square to Jupiter. So I went back and I looked at that, and I've discovered that yes, it did. On May 22nd, Mars was squaring Jupiter. That happened at 1 degree of Leo and Taurus. These two events are two more points on the timeline that I've been sharing with you that we have stepped into. And so we know now that through the February and March Venus gate activations that we've been having this electrical upgrade to our heart, preparing it, right? That pre-op stuff so that we can have this quantum transplant of our sacred masculine Mars and our sacred feminine Venus in a way that our new space can pardon me, I got to plug this in. I apologize. It was storming last night and I didn't want my laptop to get struck by lightning. So, being able to receive these quantum transplants without them being rejected, okay? This piece here is a critical piece. Remember, Taurus is all about embodiment. Jupiter is all about, expanding the space to be able to embody these new quantum transplants of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. They're at a higher vibrational set point than what we were carrying within our heart space. And so we require more space in order to integrate and embody them. And this is what these squares with Mars and Venus are allowing us to do. Remember that Jupiter is also the cosmic guru. And so this is also an opportunity with that square. Remember, it's an opportunity for either a breakthrough in consciousness or a breakdown in consciousness. But with this breakthrough in consciousness, we are learning from Jupiter all about our new transplanted sacred masculine and sacred feminine, learning how they are different than what we were embodying before, creating a whole new relationship with them. Remember that Aries-Leo axis. Leo is on that Aries-Leo axis of conscious equal partnership. So really getting to know them in a whole new way, because they are new fields that we are carrying within our compassionate heart space that is being alchemized from the compassionate heart space to the divine heart. And so having that opportunity to get to know them is a big part of what's unfolding. So as I said, these are two new points on that timeline that I've been talking about, notice how synchronistically that the days on the linear timeline that these two events happened are master number days, the 11th and the 22nd. So that's just another aside to bring into your awareness. So here is the updated timeline for you to look at. Oops, sorry, not quite there yet. Okay, before I show you the updated timeline, while you're looking at your solar return chart to see where the 28 and 29 degrees of Capricorn are, you might as well look to see where 5 degrees of Venus and 5 degrees of Jupiter are. Okay, so again, using my chart as the reference point, what we see here, 5 degrees of Leo in my solar return chart is falling right between my solar moon and my solar Epona, the Celtic heart goddess, the goddess of lion heart wisdom, right? When we're shifted out of predator prey consciousness and into that lion heart wisdom where we can be assertive but not aggressive, right? That aggression is, and predator prey stuff is all patriarchy. Notice how it's in my 7th solar house. And so really what we see here is Epona as the Celtic horse goddess. She's like the mare of the herd, right? M-A-R-E, the mare of the herd. The moon is the divine mother. And so speaking of, just a second here. Sorry, I had to get something to drink. So speaking of looking at other words, if we talk about mare, M-A-R-E in English, that, you know, the horse who is the head of the herd, right? It's always a girl horse, right? A feminine horse, mare. Well, in French, la mère, M-E with a little accent on it, R-E, means mother. Moon, divine mother. Another word in French that sounds like mère, right? The head of the horse that's the head of the herd, is la mère, M-E-R, which means sea, S-E-A. And so you could say that your heart space, which is the seat of your soul, is where you as the soul individuates from what I always call the ocean, but you know, sea, S-E-A, is often used interchangeably with the word ocean. So I think it's interesting that we have these words in English and French that sound the same but have different meanings, but the meanings are still relevant. So you can't see my Taurus up here where 5 degrees of Taurus in my solar return chart is. But what I can tell you is very close to that point is my solar north node. It's at 10 degrees of Taurus within 5 degrees of where Jupiter is in the sky. And if you were born this year, or if your birthday this year from January to today, June 11th, the closer you get to June 11th, the closer your solar north node will be to that Jupiter in the sky point. So probably within, you know, a couple of degrees, or even a degree, depending on when your birthday was this year, and you got that whole new evolutionary chart. So what this means is that whatever's being activated within you related to expanding the space of your heart to be able to fully integrate and embody this quantum transplant of the sacred feminine, getting to know about this new energy field, consciousness field of this quantum transplant of the sacred feminine, that this is the time in humanity's evolution for this to take place, because the North Node is the evolutionary GPS for humanity. Now, I don't have any other luminary bodies up there around that 5 degrees of Taurus in my solar return chart, but you very likely may. And you may not have these same luminary bodies at the 5 degrees of Leo that I have, or you may not have any. So this is how it's very unique, right? Like a fingerprint, like a snowflake, unique to each of us in terms of how we are being evolved and what our soul is desiring in terms of that leading edge expression of ourselves. And so for me, with this being in the 7th house here, that this is really building a whole new relationship with my quantum transplanted inner feminine, which is very much about this mare, right? The mare of the herd, the mother of the tribe that is a part of this compassionate heart space. And it doesn't surprise me at all, and I'll tell you why. This is kind of an aside, but let's go there. Notice how my natal moon is in Cancer. Moon in Cancer is the great mother. It's the ancient lineage that I was born into. Wherever the moon is located in your natal chart, that tells you the ancient lineage that you were born into. Now, I have a very dear soul sister who I know her natal moon is in Leo. And so her ancient lineage is the lineage of the queen goddesses. And so depending, again, where your natal moon shows up determines your ancient lineage. And so for me, because I come from the great mother lineage, it's no surprise to me that this new relationship with the sacred feminine is focused around this Lionheart wisdom of being the mare of the herd. In fact, there's a woman by the name of Maria Hartsong in Sweden that brings through from your soul's desire your personal heart song. And I had that heart song brought in by her, which was incredible. And I'm just going to pause here because I want to get the words to share with you to show you how relevant it is to even what's happening. The fact that I even met with her last year about this heart song, and it didn't come through until this year when I stepped onto this new evolutionary path, shows the perfect synchronicity, the perfect divine timing for it. So let me just get the words for that for you real quickly here. Okay, so these are the words to my heart song, and the title of it is A Heart of a Horse. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. And I'm not going to show you the whole piece, but what I do want you to see is right here. I have a heart of a horse leading the herd across the bridge beyond all the illusions. My purpose is ingrained in every cell of me. I welcome you to co-create the sacred path with me. And so, you know, Maria is an incredibly gifted woman. If you've watched the October resurrection ceremony of our Galactic New Earth Project, Maria was there as a co-facilitator, and she sang this incredible heart song to help us activate that third strand of DNA. I encourage you to go back and listen to that. It's on the Galactic New Earth Project playlist on my YouTube channel. And I encourage you, if you at all feel called to receive your own heart song through her, it's phenomenal. And if that's something that you're desiring to do, just shoot me an email and I'll give you her contact information. But the fact that my quantum transplanted inner feminine is right here and it relates to my heart song. Again, these are the way that the divine timings show up. So I encourage you to look at your own solar return chart to see how you're being invited to get to know your own new inner feminine and create the space required within your compassionate heart space to fully embody her. Okay, so here is the timeline that I promised you. So this is the previous timeline that you saw in my last video about claiming our divine inheritance. And here are the new points on the timeline. That May 22nd date where Mars was squaring Jupiter, 1 degree Leo, 1 degree Taurus, and today's date, June 11th, where Venus is now squaring Jupiter, 5 degrees Leo to 5 degrees Taurus. All of this is about what's necessary to evolve our heart spaces so that they're being alchemized from the compassionate heart space to the divine heart so that we can calibrate ourselves to this new Leo divine royalty goddess journey that we're going to be starting very soon, within the next few months. So I know that was a lot of information and a little bit of twists and turns, but hopefully it was all meaningful for you. And I thank you for staying with me through all of this. This is a huge, huge day for us in terms of our evolutionary expansion. And thank you again for being a patron. I really super appreciate you. And if you need to reach me for anything, don't hesitate to email me. Okay, until my next video, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.